and to continue to pile name upon some wall in the future for a strategy that has failed. That's the distinction. Sir.
I first and foremost want to thank you for your time. Peach Bush, alright? Also, were you a member of Skull and Rose in college with Bush? Were you in the same secret society?
That's all right. Let me answer his question.
Excuse me, were you arrested? Whoa. Did anybody watch this? I'm not doing this. Get off of me! What did I do? What did I do? You're out of your mouth! What did I do? What did I do? Help! Help! Put your hand on your back! Show me, man! Get off of me! I didn't do anything! Help me! Help me! Help! They're arresting me!
This situation.
You'll have options.
I'll answer his question. And, unfortunately, he's not available to come up here and swear me in as president.
Why are they arresting me? Can someone do something here?
Let me just say
arrested.
Because it's a very important question.
What did I do? Get off of me! Get off of me! Get the f*** off of me, man! I didn't do anything! Don't tase me, bro! Don't tase me! I didn't do anything! Ow! 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 Let me go! Let me go! Ow! Oh my God! Why did you arrest me? What did I do? What did I do? Stay back! What did I do?
What are you going to talk about? A fraud? No, it wasn't a fraud, but I'll be glad to talk to you if you'll shut up and let me talk. A fraud? Let me tell you something. I'll tell you a couple of stories about fraud. The Bohemian Club. As you say, the Bohemian Club? That's where all those rich Republicans...
Listen, I am a happy member of the Bohemian Grove. I like the folks who come there, and it's really inappropriate for me to talk about the group beyond that. Thank you.
Have you been there for the ceremony with the cremation of care?
Frankly, I don't think that's something I need to talk to you about.
Have you been there for the ceremony with the cremation of care?
Frankly, I don't think that's something I need to talk to you about.
Really?
That's right.
Well, I'm Alex Jones, and I snuck in there in 2000. I'm the guy that blew it wide open and got the video. It's been on national TV.
Well, I disrespect you for that.
You do?
I do.
But there's a lot of big public officials going in there. Don't we deserve to know?
I don't know anything about you, and I don't know anything about your film. But if you go in there with an understanding, you violated that understanding by releasing that film, and I don't respect you for that.
Really?
I'm sorry, you took an understanding when you went in there that you would not do that film. And did you have an understanding when you went in there?
No.
Did you crash it?
Yes.
Yeah, and it has no trespassing signs there too, doesn't it?
No, they put those after.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, sir. I've been there before. I know what the circumstances are, and I'm sorry you violated the understanding. But that was not a gentlemanly thing to do.
But what about the ritual? Is the ritual genuinely?
Once again!
Sir, everything. I don't owe you this comment.
I know.
This is what's called ambush journalism, and I disrespect you for that as well. So thank you and goodbye.
The ritual?
That's none of your damn business.
Oh.
redwood trees, right? I've never been to the Bohemian Club, but you ought to go. It'd be good for you. Get some fresh air.
Here's just one of many signs sporting French with skulls adorned with other trappings of death. We also saw signage with Latin.
This sex slave programming was to programming for different sexual acts that were carried out with various politicians who thought that their perversions would never be revealed. They were wrong. I was also programmed to carry out specific sexual perversions in Bohemian Grove. Bohemian Grove in Northern California is a political playground and a place where some business is discussed despite what they say. The business that's discussed is discussed in a little place called the Underground. And that underground is spelled with a capital U and a capital N. Underground. It was there I heard George Bush talking about mass genocide. What the plans were for mind control. And it was at Bohemian Grove that my daughter and I were subjected to brutal perversions, all of which were being covertly filmed. These covert films were then used for blackmail purposes because these criminals didn't trust each other. And they all had some bad information on the other one that they kept so that they could keep each other under control.
How widespread is the occult? The answer is extremely widespread. Occultism in our society, and particularly in our government, at the highest levels of corporate America, is rampant. It's also important to note that the Grove itself was founded in 1872 by West Coast journalists, and that the National Press Club adopted the iconography of the Grove for its Great Seal.
Prepared to go to Congress, to swear before Congress that everything I've told you people and everything that is here is the truth. Thank you.
That pressure needs to be brought to bring this to the attention not only of the Americans but of people all over the planet. These vehicles have been seen and confirmed all over the planet. I am willing to sign a sworn statement or testify to my judgment and to what I have observed. Such things do exist.
And I will testify to this under oath to a congressional hearing.
I will testify under oath before Congress that everything that I have said is true.
These statements are true. I'm willing to testify under oath before Congress. Thank you.
I will say at this point, to keep it short, that I will testify under oath as to what I say is true, and I will do so before Congress. Thank you.
I'm willing to testify to the truth of all these matters that I've spoken about in front of Congress under oath. Thank you.
For an Air Force Base. And I'd be glad to testify to Congress that this is absolutely the truth. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Stephen Gould.
Thank you very much, John. Members of the press, the American public, and people of the world. We are here today to disclose the truth about a subject that has been ridiculed and questioned, denied for at least 50 years. The men and women who are on this stage and the some 350 additional military intelligence witnesses to the so-called UFO matter and extraterrestrial intelligence can prove and will prove that we are not alone.
Declassified U.S. government documents and witness testimony from former or retired U.S. military personnel confirm beyond any doubt the reality of ongoing UFO incursions at nuclear weapons sites. When I say UFO, the witnesses have described these craft as disc-shaped or cylindrical shaped or spherical. These objects are capable of both hovering and high-velocity flight, usually completely silently.
There are three major icons used in the cremation of care ritual. Moloch, the owl idol, the curved staff carried by the high priest, and the eternal flame lamp, the Arabian-style lamp, which the priest uses to ignite his torch, which he then uses to burn the human effigy care. No, in their spare time, they worship Moloch and mock human sacrifices. We just need to get used to that and accept him as our leaders. Your neighbor engaging in mock human sacrifices to Moloch, the demon idol that was worshipped all over the Mediterranean and the Middle East, would you let that neighbor walk your dog or house sit, or how about babysit your children? Be in control of the nuclear launch codes. Well, we give you a revelation. They are in control of national deficit, of Congress, of your bank account, of your local police department, and see you as cattle, as their slaves.
perverse. On va tous se faire les cornes. Allez. Comme ça, on ne pourra plus dire que je suis le seul à le faire. On se fait tous les cornes.
The World Trade Center bombing. Are being questioned and analyzed all around the world. And of course, we've heard that the markets here in this country were closed today. We've been told they'll be closed again tomorrow. I mean, how long can we expect it?
It's a great opportunity.
This phrase that I often use myself, that we needed a new world order.
Those people who have been yelling, oh, the UN's going to take over global
conspiracy theorists.
They've been crazy, but now they're right.
Yeah, well, when Geithner said he would be open to the idea of a global currency last week, those conspiracy people had said and suggested that for years. Right. You're not wrong.
George Bush takes his inspiration from what he learned in Skull and Bones and from the Bohemian Grove, these evil organizations that perpetrate the ugly things that these criminals are doing to this country, for which they must be held accountable.
They are the most violent, dirtiest people on the face of the earth. Somewhere Americans are going to have to take their country back and start finding out who are these people. Who are these people we call our representatives, the Bushes. George Bush, the president, his father, went around the country talking about a new world order. The people who are running this country from behind the scenes do not care a thing about Americans or bloodshed anywhere.
This government uses fear and depression as their major tools of oppression, and we have to understand we can't be scared, we can't be depressed, we have to think positively, we have to do good things, and it's not about me, it's not about individuals, it's about all of us standing up for what's right. And when we all stand up, that's going to be the significant amount of change that we're going to see in this world. That's going to be the time where we're going to take this country back for what it's supposed to be, truth, liberty, and love. And that's the main principles behind We Are Change, standing up there as individuals, empowering ourselves and motivating more people to stand up with themselves. You know, and again, don't ever be afraid to be who you are. Don't ever be afraid to speak what you know. Just get out there, believe in yourself, and you have a short life to live. Make sure you live a good one.
There's a worldwide revolution going on.
In my opinion, the young generation of white, black, brown, whatever else there is, you're living at a time of extremism, a time of revolution.
What is it revolting against? The power structure. The American power structure? No. The French power structure? No. The English power structure? No. Then what power structure? An international Western power structure.
And I, for one, will join in with anyone, don't care what color you are, as long as you want to change this miserable condition that exists on this earth. And there's got to be a change. People in power have misused it, and now there has to be a change, and a better world has to be built, and the only way it's going to be built is with extreme methods.
So what you and I have got to do is get involved. You and I have to be right there breathing down their throat. Every time they look over their shoulder, we want them to see us. Once those intentions are made known, we can get to the nitty-gritty of the problem. We can get to the core of the problem. We can get to the root of the problem. And then we can correct the problem.
They still exist. The thing is so secret, I'm not even sure it still exists.
Thousands of years, tends to be kept in the bowels of these blood oath secret societies. And by that I mean the Shriners, the Freemasons, the Odd Fellows, the Illuminati, the Order of the Palladian. There are literally dozens of names down throughout the centuries that this goes by. But it has to be in one of these groups where you have to swear to kill a fellow member of the society if they reveal the secrets, or you yourself be killed by a member of the society if you reveal the secrets. That's what blood oaths are. And they start out bad, but they get worse as you go up in the organization.
Their whole purpose throughout history has been to teach a small number of people how to become adept at controlling everyone else and presenting their societies as desirable to the profane, so that you'll go knock on the door and say, hey, can I be a member and be initiated, with the promise of learning some great secret. What is that secret? The secret is what I have just told you this morning. The secret is how to control everybody else. And you never understand how to control everybody else until you get to the top of this pyramid of initiation. Most people never make it past the third step. All above that are carefully chosen and nurtured and taught.
As with all secret societies, you have levels, and if you're on the lower levels, you don't even know their upper levels. They don't even tell you.
Weishaupt saw in the ancient orders of Freemasonry an opportunity to commission foot soldiers for his cause of world domination. He wrote that none is fitter than the 3 lower degrees of Freemasonry. The public accustomed to it expects little from it and therefore takes little notice of it.
Weishaupt felt that Masonry was the easiest way to get a good Christian guy on the path of destruction, essentially, where you can have them take little baby steps on this path. It's a system they've been working on for thousands of years. They've really got it down. They know how to gradually, gently corrupt people from Christendom, first of all, to deism. Of course, deism is where, yes, God started the world, but then he took off, and he has no place in the affairs of men now. And so you don't have to worry about God, you don't have to worry about heaven and hell. You just kind of do your thing, and everything will be okay. Deism to atheism is the next step. Atheism, where you claim there is no God, and then, of course, the next step is out-and-out Satanism. And interestingly enough, Satanists know there's God, know there's a heaven and hell, and they just choose hell, and they choose to drag as many people into hell as they can.
The religion of Masonry, while often cloaked with Christian titles, is actually based upon the ancient mystery religion of Babylon and Egypt. These same mysteries governed the worship of Medo-Persia, Greece, and Rome. The mysteries are often symbolized by the all-seeing eye, sometimes called the eye of God. But the God of Masonry is not the same as the God of the Bible. None was more adamant about this point than the man considered by many to be the most influential Mason of all time, Albert Pike.
Albert Pike was a Confederate Civil War general who was the head of American Freemasonry in the post-Civil War period. He was he's certainly the most important American Mason. His book, Morals and Dogma, is required reading for every Freemason.
He says on page 624, the 28th degree, Teachings of the 28th degree, he says, quote, Masonry is identical with the ancient mysteries. Okay? And then he goes on, he says, we reproduce the speculations of the philosophers, the Kabbalists, the mystiques, and the Gnostics, unquote. Well, these were all systems, religious systems, that worshipped Lucifer.
Pike probably mistakenly reveals his true intent because he speaks of Lucifer frequently. Now see, Masons distinguish between Lucifer and Satan. Masons believe that Lucifer is the light bearer, the good God, and that the Christian God is called Adonai, the evil God. They use as their justification that if the Christian God was a good God, then there wouldn't be this Garden of Eden problem where because you ate of the apple, now you have to suffer and you have to, the sweat of your brow, you have to make your living. Well, women have to give birth in pain, etc. You know, no good father would do that to his children. So the Christian God is the evil God, where Lucifer is the good God because he'll give you everything you want. He'll fulfill your every desire.
In 1908, French occult expert Copin Albancelli wrote, certain Masonic societies exist which are satanic, not in the sense that the devil comes to preside at their meetings, but in that their initiates profess the cult of Lucifer. They adore him as the true God, and they are animated by an implacable hatred against the Christian God whom they declare to be an impostor. Perhaps Albert Pike's most famous and controversial quote is this one. The true and pure philosophic religion is the belief in Lucifer, the equal of Adonai. But Lucifer, God of light, is struggling for humanity against Adonai, the God of darkness and evil. Because of this, occult author Edith Starr Miller wrote, Luciferian occultism controls Freemasonry. It is important to remember that the lower ranks of Masonry are largely unaware of the deception of their leaders. Master Mason Manly P. Hall, who said that when the Mason learns the mystery of his craft, the seething energies of Lucifer are in his hands, also made it clear that Freemasonry is a fraternity within a fraternity, an outer organization concealing an inner brotherhood of the elect. Meanwhile, Albert Pike wrote in his famous Morals and Dogma that symbols are displayed to the initiate, but he is intentionally misled by false interpretations. It is not intended that he shall understand them, but it is intended that he'll imagine that he shall understand them.
Their whole goal with this philosophy is to teach all men and women that the only end of life is to seek the utmost pleasure and happiness that you can get out of it, because when you die there's nothing else. That's what they teach. That's what they want you to be. They don't want laws against sexual promiscuity. That's why they don't want families. That's why they don't want marriage. That's why they encourage homosexuality. There's a method to their madness. There's really not much method to yours, because you're operating from a place of ignorance, and until you change that, you're going to be bumbling around, bumping into each other, saying and doing the wrong things, not understanding the nature of your enemy. And if you don't understand the nature of your enemy and the weapons they use, you cannot fight that enemy. You can't fight the battle. You wouldn't even be on the battlefield. That's why you're losing the war. And I can assure you, you're losing the war. Doesn't mean it can't be turned around. But it'll never be turned around until you learn what you need to know.
It is simply the fact that certain of their members worship Lucifer, and that they keep that secret from the overwhelming majority of their own members, and certainly the public is never to know this fact if they can help it. And the evidence to support that conclusion is ample, but only to one who cares enough to look for it. The problem with most people is they don't care enough to look for anything. The secrecy is because, folks, the real secret of Mystery Babylon is how to control everyone else. And if they reveal these secrets, they won't have the control, for it'll be in the hands of everyone. That is the greatest secret of the secret societies. And I can tell you now that most of us have been living in fantasy land for all of our lives.
In praying to demon spirits?
A fellow that had been on a particular ship with me, he told me, "Hey, I got something fantastic to tell you." He said, "I am affiliated with people that speak with the spirits of the dead. How would you like to talk to the spirit of your dead mother?" And I was shocked. I was shocked. He said, "You would be afraid of talking to the spirit of your dead mother, would you?" Well, I said, "I'll tell you what, I would have to give that some thought. That's something I never thought about before in my life."
Most of us probably haven't. A little afraid of something like that.
Well, he said, you know, it's written all over your face. You're afraid of going to a seance. But he says, "I know you're going to come." And then he started telling me how brave I was when I was aboard ship, you know, different things. He says, "You're not the same man, you're changed. You're chicken." That's all I needed to hear. I said, "When do we go to a seance?" So one Saturday evening, we were in the place. It was their first time. Very beautiful. The place, the medium was a lady. She had a gorgeous new home in Montreal. And there were about 20 invited guests there, which I was one of them. And she communicated with the spirits for there's different people there. And they were telling them what the spirit said. One man said, "I would like to talk to my friend that died 6 months ago. But I don't want him to appear. Just want to talk to him. Because he says, I don't trust you talking to my friend for me." So the medium says, "Let me inquire of the spirit." "Yeah, the spirit will talk with you." And that big masculine voice was heard in the place. It says, "Hi, Frank. It's nice of you to ask for me to talk with you." And they had a little chat. And after it was over, Frank says, "This is the greatest thing on earth, to be able to talk with the spirits of the dead." Then the medium said, "We have a very special surprise tonight for you people. A spirit will manifest itself openly here in a few minutes. And it's like a big gust of wind hit the building. And right through the wall. Now the lights were terribly bright, but they were like living room lights. A couple of floor lamps and maybe some of these. And that translucent being seemed to come right out of the wall."
How did you feel right at that moment?
It's almost like my heart stopped a little bit. You know, very weird feeling. So it was a lady in a beautiful evening gown, swirling. And she said to Mary, "My dear sister, you are so wonderful to have asked for me." And Mary fainted and fell right off her chair on the floor. And a couple guys jumped up and pick her up, and started gone. That was the beginning of it.
That's how you got into it.
Yeah, that's the way I got into it. After a while, you see, there's something interesting about the human mind. You can adjust an awful lot of stuff. You can adjust to a lot of things that would terrify you to begin with. After a while, they become common and ordinary.
So you mean contact with the supernatural can become commonplace and ordinary and doesn't bother anybody?
Yeah.
In other words, the more that you do it, you're not uncomfortable.
That's right.
It's just not an uneasy feeling.
Yeah.
So how did you feel about it?
Then I got into a secret society that worshiped the spirits, you see.
Well, how is that different from the seance, Roger?
It happens that the seance are not involving in many ways. But when you get into a secret society of spirit worshippers, then, and especially when you're invited there by the direction of the higher-ups in the spirit world, you never get out of there alive. And this is exactly what my friend and I were up against. We didn't know anything about. And there was a very, very popular big band leader,
jazz
band, yeah, very famous. And one night we went to one of these seances, and he was with his wife.
So Roger, you're at this restaurant. What happened?
We sat there, and we had our favorite alcoholic beverages, you know. And as we talked, the band leader says, I want power. I go right to the source of power. And he says, how do you think that I became famous the way that I am? Well, I said, you must have had some good luck. Well, he says, there's no such thing as good luck. He says, there's either some power working for you somewhere, or you don't get ahead in this world. Not my type of occupation. So it went from there. We got talking about spirit worship.
Did it intrigue you? Or did it make you want to find out more about what exactly he was talking about?
Yeah. So he said, the supposed spirits of the dead that you're talking with are demon spirits. They're fallen angels. They're beautiful beings.
Just set it out, just like that.
Oh, yeah.
It didn't make you uneasy when he said they were...
Well, you know, it shocked you a little bit, you know. Something that you first hear mentioned to you. He said, you guys have got a great future ahead of you. Because we've been told, the high priest of our society, secret society, has been told that the master has very special plans for you too.
Now, what did he mean by the master?
Satan. And we were interested to hear more about it. And he told us, he says, look, we worship spirits. We worship Lucifer and all his angels. They're just as beautiful as they did before they were cast out of heaven. There was a misunderstanding in the whole thing, he says, among the inhabitants of the galaxies. And he says, our master was misunderstood. And God did not bear with him like he does with people that make mistakes today. So we're in a warfare, good against evil. And we happen to be the evil ones, but we're not that bad. He says, I look at this business between the forces of good and evil. He says, you believe in one person believes in God, and everyone believes in Lucifer. It's like politics.
So the great controversy is real. And you've heard someone talk about it that's on the other side.
And to these people, they are sold to the fact that Christ will not return to this planet with power and great glory. He's going to abdicate all claims to the planet. Because the high priest once said that Christ will abdicate all claim to the planet because he knows that it is lawfully and rightfully Satan's. And at that time, he says, so the priest says, well now, he says, for those of you that are new, let me tell you that this is the most feasible way, he says, to please the spirits is to deride Christ and his people, you know, and his church and all that. So they sing out of Christian hymnals.
They didn't sing Christian words to the hymns, however.
Well, they changed a lot of them. Yeah.
Not
It's a form of blasphemy. Yeah. Such as you see today in the rock music world. You see the entertainers, they have these crosses. Ladies got earrings, crosses. The guys got crosses. This is a form of blasphemy, a form of deriding Christ. You see, spirits cause the people to do that, to find pleasure in wearing this type of emblem, which is the cross is the emblem of the crucifixion of Christ to the Christians. The master of my life has revealed to me that it is time for you people to become acquainted with the worship room of the gods, where they had the spirits that had materialized. They photographed them, and then they had paintings made of them. And there was probably about maybe 100 of those around the place.
So how did you feel when you walked into that room?
I felt that these people had power, and they had a lot of it.
Did that attract you?
Yes and no.
You had mixed feelings about it?
I had mixed feelings about it. Yeah. Because to a certain extent, things looked so good and sounded so good to us. But you see, I'd been brought up in a Christian home. My dad says, well, you know, if you get involved in wrongdoing, you're going to have to pay the price. There's always a cost for everything in this world. So this thought kept creeping to my mind. Just how far you go with these spirits before we start paying the price.
So it made you just a little bit nervous.
Oh, yes.
But yet you kept going back.
Oh, there was no way out. Because that's what we're told.
You knew at that time.
Yeah.
So you were moving forward more on fear.
More on fear, yes. Because the high priest said that the master had special plans for us in our lives. And that no one ever went into this society unless they were invited by the spirits. So that was made very clear.
In reality, Roger, you were chosen by high-powered demon spirits to be a part of their human, special, privileged group.
You see, these people in Montreal, the society, like the priest mentioned, there's thousands of spirit worshippers, you know, in different societies of spirit worshippers in this world. But he says we are the elite. We know the real truth about the master and his angels. And they're not hideous-looking beings. They are gorgeous creatures. And from the paintings that they had on the wall of the walls of that worship room.
Now, when you would go to these praise sessions, what kinds of things happened at those sessions?
Well, there's a lot of success stories. The masters has done this for me and that for me. I remember one.
At what point did this demon worship start to affect you personally, Roger?
Well, it wasn't too long that the priest mentioned to us that the time had arrived for us to start trusting the spirits and give the spirits a chance to work for us. And there was a number of gifts that you could choose from. That the priest mentioned to us that the time had arrived for us to start trusting the spirits and give the spirits a chance to work for us. And there was a number of gifts that you could choose from. There's having his devotions done in the worship room of the gods, and he will use a trance medium to converse with certain demon spirits that will inform him in regards to ancient history. And the man shook his head a little bit like this. His eyes went glazed, and he stayed at it for a half hour. And the spirit spoke to him. So I'm the spirit counselor. And what would you like to know?
And so he asked the questions of one of these human beings that was channeling.
Oh yeah, the voice changed and everything. The voice changed of the person completely. And
it identified itself as a spirit guide.
Oh, yeah, spirit counselor, yeah.
Okay, a spirit counselor. And then proceeded to tell him all the events that he was asking, answer his question?
They had 3 major policies that were going to be followed. First, Lucifer says, we have to make sure that people, humans, get to believe that Satan and his angels do not really exist.
You know, Roger, that's interesting because a recent research study report that I read indicated that in a national survey, I believe it's over 75% of people do not really believe in a real tangible devil. But there is one.
Oh, yeah. The next thing, the 3 parts policy that they had adopted there, the second one was to find a way of being able to get total control of people's minds. And that would be done by taking hypnotism out of the realm of the occult and introduce it as a new science for the benefit of mankind. They felt that by taking hypnotism out of the realm of the occult and introducing it as a new science for the benefit of mankind, they could then use people of great renown, educators, people of capacity, that would do great things, such as supposedly regress people in time to former lives. And of course, after the session is over, the person would not know a thing about ancient history. And the person she or he has talked about performing, certain deeds, let's say, 3,000 or 4,000 years ago. But this was their strategy. Now, what this would do for the thing is this, that it would create in the minds of the general public, solidly set in the mind of the general public, an unwavering trust in a great deception. So now this would be a way of de-Christianizing the Western world through the avenue of mysticism.
The 3 things were, number 1, that they did not want Satan did not want the human family to think that he or his angels existed.
Right.
The second point that you made had to do with taking control of people's minds.
That's right.
The third point was what?
Well, to destroy the Bible without burning it.
Okay.
See.
And what was the strategy on that?
On that, it was very interesting, because after the Great General Council, it was decided that Satan would tutor Charles Darwin personally in setting up the principles of his theories of evolution. He was tutored by Lucifer himself, fallen Lucifer. And at that time, it was understood, Satan and his spirit counselors understood, that if a person was led to believe in the theory of evolution, it would, in his life, destroy completely the creation week of the Bible, the fall of man, and plan of redemption. It would do away with it. Anyone that teaches a theory of evolution is considered to be a minister of a great religious system. And he said that every teacher of that theory is recognized by the spirits as a person of great value, and receives a very special unction from Satan himself, giving great power to induce spiritual blindness, to convince and convert. 3 capacities. This is the grain plane, the master's grain plane. for harvesting the nations, for harvesting the multitudes of the earth into his cause, just before the close of the great controversy between the forces of good and evil. It's going to be done in a unique manner. This rain plains is going to take people are going to eat the stuff, because it says spirits, demon spirits, will declare themselves to be inhabitants of far distant planets in the galaxies. That are coming to warn the inhabitants of planet Earth of the impending destruction of the planet, unless something seriously proper is done to avoid it.
Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world. Just think how easy his task and mine might be in these meetings that we held if suddenly there was a threat to this world from some other species, from another planet, outside in the universe. We'd forget all of the local differences that we have.
Durant plus de 400 ans du XIVe siècle à la fin du XVIIIe, les francs-maçons, les assassins, le prieuré de Sion et les Templiers existent sous la forme de communautés secrètes et isolées, à l'influence limitée. Jusqu'à ce 1er mai 1776 en Bavière, où la race humaine va connaître ce qui risque d'être son jour le plus sombre. Adam Weishaupt, un professeur de droit canonique élevé chez les jésuites et très versé dans le culte, forme une nouvelle organisation secrète qui va unifier toutes les communautés clandestines dans un but invraisemblable, prendre le contrôle absolu du monde et de ses ressources afin de parvenir à une domination totale des peuples. Un nouvel ordre mondial selon l'euphémisme de Weishaupt. Sa confrérie diabolique constitue une synthèse des fondements évoqués par les communautés secrètes qui ont déjà existé. Il associe habilement les rituels ésotériques des francs-maçons, le mysticisme islamique des assassins, l'art de tuer et l'usage du hashish, les membres influents du prieuré de Sion et la fortune, le pouvoir, la science militaire et la vendetta des Templiers, et dirige le tout contre l'Église catholique. Il y ajoute ses propres connaissances occultes. Pour fonder sa communauté, il ne choisit pas le 1er mai par hasard. C'est une date importante dans le calendrier satanique. Le groupe est baptisé Illuminati, soit inspiration intellectuelle pour la version officielle. Mais en privé, Weishaupt déclare lui-même que le terme est dérivé de Lucifer et signifie « porteur de la lumière ». Le sceau officiel est une pyramide mystique tronquée, coiffée d'un œil dont les rayons lumineux se propagent dans toutes les directions. L'œil symbolise la connaissance de la confrérie d'illuminés qui règne au-dessus du monde. À l'attention de ses disciples, le fondateur énumère les 5 grands moyens secrets qui vont permettre d'accomplir son but obscur, la domination totale du monde. 1. La corruption par l'argent et par le sexe sera utilisée pour contrôler les hauts fonctionnaires occupant déjà des postes importants dans l'ensemble des gouvernements et des domaines de réussite. 2. Les Illuminati qui sont dans le corps enseignant des collèges et des universités devront instruire les meilleurs élèves pour les besoins de la cause. 3. Les personnes influentes et les élèves spécialement entraînés sous le contrôle de la confrérie seront placés dans les coulisses des gouvernements, des institutions religieuses et financières et utilisés comme agents. 4. La communauté secrète exercera une suprématie absolue sur les médias, afin que toute information puisse être orientée de manière à convaincre le grand public qu'un gouvernement mondial unique est la seule solution à nos nombreux problèmes. 5. La phase finale de l'opération utilisera toutes les forces en place afin de lancer des coups d'État militaires destinés à renverser tout gouvernement hostile et à mettre le monde sous le joug d'un gouvernement global contrôlé par les Illuminati. Le groupe d'origine est composé de maçons de 32e degré et se sert de différentes loges maçonniques pour le recrutement et la base du projet. Le franc-maçon de plus haut rang à être recruté est le baron Knigge, un aristocrate du nord de l'Allemagne également connu sous le nom d'Adolphe Francis. Il joue un rôle majeur sur le front maçonnique européen. Les Illuminati sont extrêmement secrets, dissimulant leurs groupes et leurs identités derrière des pseudonymes classiques. Ainsi, Weishaupt est Spartacus et Knigge Philo. Le quartier général s'appelle Éleusis, l'Autriche est désignée comme l'Égypte. Même les dates sont cryptographiées. Sous la conduite de Knigge, les rangs des Illuminati atteignent plus de 3000 hommes. Mais un succès aussi rapide engendre l'opposition, notamment de la part des jésuites qui, dès le début, combattent les Illuminati avant que l'ensemble des prêtres ne deviennent activement leurs ennemis. Dès lors, l'Église catholique mène l'offensive contre la confrérie secrète. L'opposition grandit au point que le gouverneur de Bavière déclare dans un édit de 1784 que les Illuminati représentent une conspiration hors la loi. Un grand nombre de leurs membres est emprisonné et certains, dont Weishaupt, sont bannis de royaume. L'illuminisme et bientôt la franc-maçonnerie sont contraints de quitter la Bavière. À la fin du XVIIIe siècle, les Illuminati semblent avoir été complètement éradiqués. Mais la disparition de la confrérie secrète, tout comme celles qui l'ont précédée, n'est qu'une apparence. Elle n'a fait que passer dans la clandestinité en prenant le soin d'ajouter un article de plus à sa liste de sombres objectifs, celui d'infiltrer et de faire tomber la religion catholique. Lorsqu'on observe le monde d'aujourd'hui, que voit-on de toutes ces communautés secrètes? Les groupes maçonniques sont la communauté dominante et existent au grand jour à travers le monde. De nos jours, dans le rite américain dit d'York, le degré de chevalier du temple est le plus haut grade de la hiérarchie. Ce qui se passe dans les loges maçonniques est encore relativement secret. Seuls les dignitaires du plus haut échelon ont probablement connaissance des rituels obscurs, des objectifs et des vendettas menés contre l'Église catholique. Les francs-maçons et les templiers se sont parfaitement intégrés au sein des sociétés les plus respectées de notre monde.
Le but intime des Illuminati est la domination du monde. La manière dont ils comptent y parvenir est très détaillée. Ils envisagent d'instruire les jeunes et de les convertir à leur mode de pensée. Ils veulent anéantir la foi et la confiance au sein de la politique, mais aussi de la religion. La priorité de toute communauté secrète est de régner sur le peuple pour qu'il devienne docile et utile, afin de l'asservir et d'en faire des animaux de laboratoire.
Leur volonté d'accéder à l'illumination à travers la science prend lentement une tournure obscure. Une grande conspiration se trame dont l'objectif est la domination du monde.
Nous savons tous que la connaissance mène au pouvoir. Mais la connaissance occulte est encore plus puissante. Et les Illuminati, si c'est encore leur nom, sont un mouvement dont le mot d'ordre est la fin justifie les moyens.
Les Illuminati contemporains représentent aujourd'hui une puissante entité à travers le monde, même si leur appellation a changé.
Ils feront tout pour mener à bien leur projet. Ils tueront, détruiront, mentiront, escroqueront, voleront, peu importe. C'est une menace efficace, car ils se feront passer pour n'importe quoi. Des libéraux, des conservateurs, des fascistes, des communistes, des démocrates, des républicains, ils sont tout ce qui leur permet de poursuivre leurs desseins. C'est une puissante conspiration secrète d'une grande efficacité.